Hey everybody, this is Beck from Com20. So in this video, I'm going to show you the basics about how to get started with the Solidity Programming Language so that you can become a blockchain developer. I'm going to show you how to write your first Ethereum smart contract, and we're going to do it all on your browser. You won't have to download anything on your computer. So let's get started. Solidity is the main programming language for writing smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. It's a contract-oriented language, which basically means that smart contracts are the main way that you organize code and store data and write all of your programming logic. And it's a high-level language for implementing these smart contracts. It looks a lot like JavaScript and Python and C++, as you see right here. And it's used to run on the Ethereum virtual machine, which is basically the thing that runs the code on the Ethereum blockchain. So Solidity is statically typed as opposed to a dynamically typed language, and it supports stuff like inheritance, libraries, and lots of other stuff. So enough of talking about Solidity, let's actually jump in and start writing some Solidity code. This is a website that allows you to write Solidity smart contracts in your browser, and it has a text editor here and allows you to compile them and deploy them and run them. And that's exactly what I'm going to use for this tutorial. You won't have to download anything on your computer. You won't have to install anything. You can just visit this website to use Remix, and we'll write the smart contracts that way. So in order to do that, I'm going to go over here to this browser folder. You can see the file browser over here. This is some basic smart contracts that come preloaded inside of this IDE. I'm just going to create a new one here. I think I can just create a new file. This will be a Solidity file. I will call it my contract. And I'm going to write a smart contract inside of here. I'll do this by first declaring the version of Solidity that we want to use. We just do that like this. We say pragma Solidity, and I'm going to use a caret to specify a version greater than the one we want to use. And I'm going to say version 0.24. And I'm going to end each line like this with a semicolon. And next, I'm actually going to declare the smart contract. So before I do that, I'll explain a little bit more about what a smart contract is. Smart contract is code that gets executed on the blockchain. In this case, this is going to be Ethereum's blockchain. It's for using Solidity for this Ethereum smart contract. And this smart contract is kind of like a microservice out on the web. It's going to be accessible to everyone on the blockchain. They'll be able to see this smart contract. They'll be able to use it. They'll be able to read and write data with it and actually execute any code that we write inside of here. So it's going to be public. And that's kind of why I call it like a microservice. It's more than just a class, like in an object-oriented system or something like that. It's actually something that's publicly accessible. So it's going to look something like a class, though, because that's how we're going to actually, keep all the code inside of here. So I'll show you how to do that. We'll start by saying contract. Say my contract. And I'm going to open this with some curly braces, and it'll notice that the editor closes this automatically for us, which is really nice. And what I'm going to do first is just show you how to read and write a value from a variable inside of here. Now, like I said earlier, Solidity is a statically typed language, so we're going to actually have to declare the type, data type of the variable we want to store. So in this case, we're just going to store a string, and we'll declare a string, and we'll say value. Now let me explain something about this value. This value is going to represent, a variable that belongs to this entire smart contract. So this isn't like a local variable. It's actually a variable that this entire contract will know about. And what that means with a smart contract is that data is actually going to get stored on the blockchain in storage. So if we set this value, we're actually going to be writing data to the blockchain. That's different from a local variable that I might just set inside of a function that would be local to that function scope. And would disappear instantly once that function is called. Instead, this value is actually going to be stored on the blockchain. So let's create a way to just read this value. So I can do this by writing a function in Solidity like this. We just start with the function keyword. And I say I'm just going to call the function get. It's going to get this value. And we'll just open the braces for now. I'm gonna write some more code here in a second. We can see some warnings coming up, but I'll fill this out more. We'll say just return value, okay? And that's a really basic way to do this. I'm gonna add some more to this. I'm gonna say this is also public, all right? Which basically is setting the visibility of this function. That's column solidity, is setting the visibility. So that knows that this function can be called by anyone who has access to the smart contract on the blockchain, not just inside this contract. So I'm also going to set a return value, say returns string, all right? That makes our warning disappear down here. And I just tell our function that we're always gonna return a string data type. And we know that's the same data type as value because we declared it here. Now I'm also going to look at this warning down here which says this function state mutability can be restricted. So basically what this is saying is in Solidity now, in this newest version, since we're not actually changing this value, we're not changing anything inside this function, we want to add an additional modifier here which just says view. All right, and that makes that warning go away. So now I'm going to set a new function, or write a new function that's called set. Say function. It's going to allow us to set this value. I'll say set, and I'll say string. I'll say value. All right, and I'm also going to set the visibility of this function. We're going to call it public, which means that anyone will be able to set this value on the blockchain. And I'll say value equals this value that we're passing in. All right. Let me explain that. I need in value as an underscore here because I want to differentiate between this value that's getting passed in and the value that's referenced here. Now inside of your, this value without an underscore is referencing this, state variable that we set up earlier that's actually getting stored to the blockchain. And this value, Solidity knows that it's just a local variable because I passed it in and I, prepended it with an underscore like this. And also notice that I declared the data type of the function argument. We need that inside Solidity because it needs to know the type of the data that's getting passed in. All right, and now we have a way to actually read this value and set it. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to set this value whenever we deploy the smart contract, or whenever it's generated for the first time. And I'm going to do this with the constructor function. So if you're familiar with other programming languages where you might write, classes or something like that, you might be familiar with a constructor function, which is basically a function that's called whenever this contract is instantiated, or in this case, it's going to be whenever the contract is created or whenever the smart contract is deployed to the blockchain. And in the newer versions of Solidity, we do that like this. We say constructor, and we just, say it's public. And we can, write code inside of this constructor that gets called whenever this contract is created. And then we'll say, value. We'll just set it as, my value. All right. There we go. So that's a complete smart contract that you set this value whenever it's deployed, so it'll have some sort of default value, and then we'll have some functions that allow us to read that value from the blockchain, and then we'll have a function that allows us to create that value as well. So now I can go to this tab over here in Remix, and I can compile it. We can select the compiler version, and I'm going to say, let's see here, 0.4.25. We'll start to compile it and see what happens. All right. And now what I'm going to do is actually run the smart contract. You'll see some options over here. I'm just going to say JavaScript virtual machine, which basically what that's going to do is give us a test blockchain in the browser. So we don't have to connect to a blockchain of any kind. We can just, compile this and run it and deploy it inside of our browser, which is pretty cool. And it's going to give us some, free Ethereum accounts over here. Don't worry if you don't quite understand what all these values mean just yet. That's okay. I can explain those more. But for now, we're going to just keep my contract and we're going to deploy it. All right, there we go. Let's deploy it. So now what I can do is click on this little down arrow here, and we can see the functions that are available to us in the smart contract. we can see the set function and the get function. These are the functions that we created over here. The set function is going to allow us to update it, and the get functions allow us to get it. So I'll click get, and we should probably see the value that we created inside the constructor. We set it here. So let's get it. All right, there we go, it's my value. And we can see some activity in this log down here. We can see that it was a call to myContract.get. And now let's set it. So I'm going to enter the quotations from a string. I'm going to say new value. All right, let's click set. All right, and we can see that worked. So you can see the transaction history over here. Let's look at the value. All right, it's new value. There we go. That's a complete smart contract.